Remember Nolan Watson? Back in 2015, he became one of only 3 Indiana prep pitchers to be taken in the first round in the past 10 years. Some scouts even went as far as saying he was the most pro-ready high school pitcher in the draft. But 9 years later, he isn't even a ranked prospect and still has yet to make an MLB debut. What happened? Hey guys, Brett here with Baseball Prospect Analysis. I hope y'all are doing well. Today we're breaking down Nolan Watson. We'll be going over his somewhat disappointing career so far. But before we get to that, I'd like to thank you guys for 3,000 subs. It's so cool to think we have 3,000 members in our prospect focused community. It truly means a lot. Our next goal will be 5,000 subs before the end of summer, so if you aren't currently subscribed to the channel, consider doing so. By becoming a subscriber, you'll receive weekly videos on current and former top prospects. With that said, let's get back to the video. Nolan Watson was a 6'2", 200-pound right-handed pitcher out of Indianapolis, Indiana. Scouts got their first look at him his freshman year, but he was actually projected to be a better position player at the time. The 6'1", 175-pound 15-year-old was expected to be a future D1 two-way player. At third base, he displayed good range, plus glove work and a power arm, sending 83-mile-an-hour heaters to first base. At the plate, he worked mostly as a rotational hitter, but possessed a quick bat and plenty of juice. On the mound, he worked 80-82 with arm side run, an advanced 11-5 breaking ball, and a developing changeup with flashes of sink. This performance cemented him early on as a top 10 player in the 2015 class. However, his sophomore performance at the 2015 Midwest Future Games would be the true eye-opener for scouts. At this event, he would sit 85-89 over the course of 2 innings and launch a 92-mile-an-hour dot from the outfield during pregame warm-ups. These feats would secure him MVP of the whole event, but would more importantly boost future draft interest due to his power arm. By his junior year, there was little doubt about his true identity as a prospect. The Vanderbilt commit was now a primary pitcher with very projectable stuff. His fastball was now 90-92 with arm side run and downhill plane. He had 2 breaking balls, both with above average movement and plus control, and his changeup was still developing. While all these traits were very impressive, Watson would actually follow the top 10 nationally this year. Unfortunately for Nolan, the 2015 class was loaded of mid-90s juniors in 2014. However, looking back at it, if the same prospects were to be ranked in the year 2024, Nolan would most likely rank higher. While he wasn't touching the mid-90s at this point, his low-effort smooth delivery would value him higher than many of the mid-90s high-effort guys ahead of him. But back in 2014, this would land him the 64th best prospect nationally with a potential mid-round draft upside. The other major factor here was his commitment to the NCAA powerhouse Vanderbilt. Vandy, as many of you know, has had a rich history of pulling late first-round and early second-round picks out of the draft, only for those same prospects to come back as lottery picks 3 years later. Heading into his senior year, most mock drafts had Watson as a fairly polished, projectable athlete, but assumed he'd be better off choosing Vandy over the draft. His consistency and deep repertoire were very impressive, but his pure stuff was lacking compared to his peers. This perception would make a full 180 after his first senior season start. The now 18-year-old Nolan would routinely sit 92-95 with a plus slider and above-average curveball throughout his senior campaign. The sudden upsurge in velo and pure stuff would launch him into first-round conversations and secure his draft ranking at 61st overall. As luck would have it, Nolan would actually join a local rival on draft day. The Kansas City Royals would take both Ash Russell and Nolan Watson in the first round of the 2015 MLB draft. Ash would be selected 21st, and Nolan would be picked up shortly after the 33rd pick, inking a $1.8 million signing bonus.
With the 33rd selection of the 2015 MLB draft, the Kansas City Royals select Nolan.
When the media asked Royals GM Dayton Moore if they purposely drafted 2 prospects out of the same area, he claimed it was completely coincidental, but worked out well. Kansas City would send Nolan to Single A Lexington in 2016 for his first full season of pro ball. However, they'd make one big change before sending him there. The Royals would completely remove Watson's slider from his arsenal. This wasn't due to it being a bad pitch, in fact it was quite the opposite. While Nolan's mid-90s fastball and potential plus slider were effective, his curveball and changeup were dragging behind. In an effort to make him more comfortable using these pitches in game and fast-track their development, the team decided it was best he lay off the slider. Well, this idea went as well as you could imagine. Nolan would struggle all year due to not having a true out pitch and would finish 3-11 with a 7.57 ERA in 96 innings pitched. He would give up 125 hits, 19 home runs, 54 free bases, and tally only 60 strikeouts. And to add insult to injury, his curveball and changeup only progressed slightly, both grading out as near average. The now 16th ranked prospect in the Royals system had much to prove for the 2017 season. Ideally, fans and management hoped this year would be a great stepping stone for Nolan. He would get his slider back and could potentially push for a late season call up to Double-A. But 2 major factors would prevent this from happening. First, Watson would miss nearly 2 months of the regular season due to a nagging shoulder injury that would affect him throughout his whole year. Secondly, his slider did not come back in full form. The previously near plus pitch was now an average to above average offering, generating less whiffs. These two factors would cause Nolan to lose confidence and make it much harder for him to attack batters the way he used to. The result was not pretty. Between rookie ball and single A, he'd finish 1-12 with a 7.87 ERA. In 84 innings pitched, he would give up 131 hits, 40 walks, and strike out 53. Clearly, his issue wasn't a lack of command like most early drafted prep arms, but that he couldn't miss bats. He was getting shelled in even rookie ball, which was not a good sign. But despite this major setback, he was actually the better of the two KC first-round draft picks, as Ash Russell had decided to take a leave of absence from baseball at this point. The other positive note was Nolan was maturing as a player. In January 2018, he did an interview with Indiana RBI and essentially explained the lessons he learned over the past 2 years of pro ball. These lessons mostly focused on dealing with failure and the realization that he needed to become a true pitcher and not just a thrower. Clearly, this more mature view of the game benefited Nolan as he'd post much better numbers throughout the 2018 season for single-A Lexington, high-A Williamton. Combined, he'd finished 10-10 with a 5.24 ERA over 125 innings pitched, striking out 93 and giving up 63 bases. While these numbers were not remarkable, they were certainly an improvement worth noticing. Unfortunately, the positive trend would not continue, as Watson would miss basically all the 2019 season due to Tommy John surgery. Then, of course, the 2020 season would be cancelled, delaying his return until 2021. 2021 would be Nolan's last year of KC, and he spent the majority of it in AA, posting similar numbers to his 2018 season, finishing 5-3 with a 5.8 ERA and 68 innings pitched, striking out 41 and walking 31. The sample size was smaller, but this was still viewed as progression due to the better competition. Following this season, he would elect for free agency and eventually be signed by the San Diego Padres. The 2022 season would show some improvement for Nolan as his walk rate would drop and his strikeout rate would rise, but his ERA in AA stayed nearly the same. Finally, in 2023, the Padres would give Watson his first taste at AAA. After a solid first half of the season in San Antonio, San Diego would promote him to El Paso for the remainder of the season. While his numbers certainly didn't stand out at AAA, they were certainly good enough to hold his position for the next year. So now we are at present day. Nolan Watson is now 27 years old and has yet to make an MLB debut. However, a solid 2024 in AAA could change that fairly quickly. With that said, let's go over my thoughts on this whole situation. Let's first address the elephant in the room. The B word. Due to Nolan being a first-round pick, the bust conversation is bound to happen. In my eyes, it's kinda hard to view Nolan as a bust. He didn't have the hype that someone like Ash Russell or Justin Hooper had out of high school. Yes, he was a highly ranked guy, but that was simply due to his consistency. He didn't have the pure stuff or the ability to light up the radar gun. The Royals drafted him with the expectation that he'd be a mid-rotation arm with 4 average or better pitches. I don't think anyone is expecting this guy to become the 1 or 2 guy in their rotation. So with that said, there's still a chance that he does that in the next 2 years if he can get past AAA. This of course needs to happen sooner than later based on his age and injury history. In terms of his career as a whole, there are 2 major factors that slowed his progression. First of all, injuries. Something every pro athlete must face at one point or another. It just sucks his UCL tear happened 1 year before the canceled season. While it did essentially give him 2 years to fully rehab, it's also 2 years away from in-game competition. The shoulder issues early in his career didn't help either. Secondly, the Royals' development of minor league pitchers is simply awful. This is fairly well known in the baseball world. Like, why in the world would you remove a potential plus pitch from a young 18-year-old's arsenal? On paper, I guess it makes sense, as the lagging behind pitches get more attention, but in real-life application, it's moronic. Anyone that has ever pitched at even a semi-competitive level would have told you his slider would not come back in its original form. Since there isn't specific information on exactly what happened, I'm going to be making some educated guesses. It was known that his changeup and curveball were sub-average following the draft. My guess is they removed the slider to try and help differentiate the pitch from his curveball. As someone who threw both the slider and curveball out of the 3/4 slot, I understand they can get blended with each other at times. But if that's the case, why not unblend them a little bit and figure it out throughout the season? In my case, I learned to throw a sweeper and slider instead of forcing an 11.5 or close to 12.6 curve that was just never going to happen. Like, why would you remove your first-round draft pick's best out pitch right before their first big league season? You don't think that might tank their confidence or force them to try to do too much with their fastball? Truly, the only good reason I can see them having for removing the pitch would be if he was over-supinating it, putting himself at risk for injury. But other than that, there's really no excuse. Personally, I would have liked to see him go to Vanderbilt and develop more before going pro. It probably would have been beneficial. But let's be real, 99% of us aren't saying no to a first-round signing bonus. My hope for Nolan would be that he figures his stuff out this year and either gets a late-season call-up or maybe next year. I've personally followed him off and on for the past 10 years, and it'd be really cool to see him make his MLB debut, especially for a team like the Padres. And that's about it for today, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed another installment to the What Happened series. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and a comment below. Feel free to comment any prospects you want me to do videos on. I'm hoping to post what happened videos at least once a week and then do a different video later in the week. So Monday, Friday, hopefully. And once again, guys, I'd like to thank y'all for 3,000 subs. It's so cool to think we have a community of 3,000 people all tuned into prospect videos and all interested in the same niche category. And as always, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.